As announced earlier, I have the honor to welcome and give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Mangala Samarawira, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka. And please try to be focused on our distinguished speaker. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, High Commissioner, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I would like to begin by thanking you, the High Commissioner and the members of the Council for the trust reposed in Sri Lanka at the 28th session and agreeing to defer the release of the report of the OHCHR investigation on Sri Lanka. The time granted by the Council gave the government much needed space to begin implementing its reform agenda, renew its engagement with the international community, including the High Commissioner for Human Rights and his office, and start steps aimed at achieving meaningful reconciliation, strengthening democratic institutions, good governance, the rule of law, and confidence building among communities affected by conflict for many years. The victory of the United National Front for Good Governance at the parliamentary election held last month enabled President Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to form a national unity government. Traditional rivals in Sri Lankan politics, the United National Party and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party thus came together, heralding a new culture of consensus politics in the country and creating much needed political and policy stability. An important feature in the August 17th election was the return of centrists to power in the legislature and the resounding defeat of extremists on both sides of the divide. As a result, the moderates in Parliament have once again secured power, which augurs well for progressive reform. This includes ensuring that the universal values of equality, justice and freedom are upheld by fostering reconciliation between communities and securing a political settlement. In fact, the appointment of the Tamil National Alliance leader as leader of the opposition, as well as the appointment of the 44th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka in January, were clear messages that in the new Sri Lanka, extraneous considerations such as ethnicity, religion, class, or gender would not be used to deny anyone their rightful place. As a government that is responsible and accountable to her people, the National Unity Government remains firm in its resolve to do right by the people of the country, not in the least because of assurances given to the international community at any point in time, but because this is the only path available to ensure justice, remove the causes of terrorism and achieve a durable peace for the long-suffering people in our country. The government of Sri Lanka recognizes fully that the process of reconciliation involves addressing the broad areas of truth-seeking, justice, reparations and non-recurrence, and for non-recurrence to become truly meaningful, the necessity of reaching a political settlement that addresses the grievances of the Tamil people. With the mandate granted by the people, the President, Prime Minister and the government have already taken some important steps to create the conditions required for initiating a dialogue aimed at a political settlement. Accountability, as I mentioned, is essential to uphold the rule of law and build confidence in the people of all communities of our country in the justice system. We also recognize fully the importance of judicial and administrative reforms in this process. These are essential factors that must be addressed for the culture of accountability and the rule of law, which have eroded through years of violence to once again be ingrained in our society. We recognize how important this is to prevent impunity not only for violations of human rights, but corruption and other crimes, and how vital these processes are for the long-term development of our country and for the peace dividend to be felt by all our citizens, including generations to come. These are lessons we have not only learned from the experiences of other countries, but also from our own history and recent past. The ideas that the government has evolved for setting up independent, credible and empowered mechanisms for truth-seeking, justice, reparations and guarantees of non-recurrence within the framework of the Constitution includes the following. For truth-seeking, the establishment by statute of two mechanisms. One, a commission for truth, justice, reconciliation and non-recurrence to be evolved in consultation with relevant authorities of South Africa and other countries who have been advising us. This mechanism is envisaged as having a dual structure, a compassionate council composed of religious dignitaries from all major religions in this country, and a structure composed of commissioners. Two, an office on missing persons based on the principle of the family's right to know, to be set up by statute with expertise from the ICRC and in line with internationally accepted standards. On the right to justice, what is being proposed is for a judicial mechanism with a special council to be set up by statute. This takes into account the rights of victims to a fair remedy and aims to address the problems of impunity for human rights violations suffered by all communities. There have been previous instances as well in Sri Lanka when criminal justice mechanisms of different kinds have been set up. This therefore is not at all an alien concept. Neither is it aimed at a particular group of persons, but something that is essential in terms of upholding the rule of law and creating a society that respects the rule of law. On the right to reparations, an office for reparations to be set up by statute to facilitate the implementation of recommendations relating to reparations made by the proposed Commission on Truth, Justice, Reconciliation and Non-Recurrence, the Office of the Missing Persons, the LLRC and any other entity. Mr. President, in order to guarantee non-recurrence, it is proposed that a series of measures would be undertaken, including administrative and judicial reforms and the adoption of a new constitution. A series of measures including amending the penal code to criminalize hate speech and enforce disappearances are also in the process. The best guarantee for non-recurrence is, of course, a political settlement that addresses the grievances of the Tamil people. We hope that we can achieve this through the adoption of a new constitution. A constituent assembly of parliament will be set up shortly for this purpose. Mr. President, these mechanisms will be evolved and designed through a wide process of consultations involving all stakeholders, including victims. Moreover, each mechanism is envisaged to have the freedom to obtain assistance, both financial, material, and technical, from our international parties, including the OHCHR. Mr. President, defeating terrorism in Sri Lanka was a necessity. Today, we have greater freedom to deal with the cause of terrorism and engage in nation building and peace building as a result of the cessation of hostilities. The armed forces of our country have been hailed in the past for their discipline and professionalism. However, the reputation of the vast majority of the armed forces was tarnished because of the system and culture created by a few positions of responsibility. Therefore, to all those who have doubts about the process of accountability, I would like to say, please don't fear. Maintain your confidence that a process of this nature would impartially observe due process and in fact help restore the good name of the Sri Lankan armed forces. As we restore the credibility of the armed forces, we look forward to further contributing for peace and stability in the world through significantly greater engagement in peacekeeping and humanitarian activities. In fact, Sri Lanka recently signed on the Kigali Principles on the protection of civilians. Mr. President, today we have a government in place which acknowledges the suffering of victims across Sri Lanka's communities, a government which recognizes the mistakes of the past and is all too aware of the weaknesses of our institutions, a government that does not seek to take cover by distorting concepts and principles such as sovereignty for its own selfish ends, but instead remains firmly committed to the welfare of all its citizens, remains open to dialogue and to address difficulties and deficiencies with help and assistance from the international community when required. Those who are skeptical about Sri Lanka's ability to transform as a nation and address all these issues are many. They claim that there could never be justice in Sri Lanka, that there can never be recognition of all communities as equals. All I have to say to them is, look at what people achieved on the 8th of January. The world had given up hope on Sri Lanka to such an extent that very few believed that what was achieved through democratic means on that day was within the realms of possibility in my country. This feat was repeated on the 17th of August when extremists on both sides of the divide failed to secure seats in Parliament. Therefore, I say to the skeptics, don't judge us by the broken promises, experiences and U-turns of the past. Let us design, define and create our future by our hopes and aspirations and not be held back by the fears and prejudices of the past. Let us not be afraid to dream. Let us not be afraid to engage in meaningful dialogue aimed at finding solutions to problems as opposed to pointing fingers, heaping blames and scoring political points at the expense of future generations. This journey may not be as fast as some may want it to be, and for some we may have already gone too far. But the government of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has the political will and the courage of their convictions to ensure that we take the country forward, breaking the barriers of ignorance, fear, prejudice and hate. My plea to all of those who have Sri Lanka's well-being on mind, trust us and join us to work together and create the momentum required to move forward and take progressive, meaningful and transformative steps to create a new Sri Lanka. I thank you.